What does it mean to have a sense of ownership in our life? Is this just about our stuff, right? Like the physical things that we own, a car or a TV or a video game system? Or could it be about something deeper? Is there a deeper kind of ownership that actually is much more important and much harder to lose, but also harder to gain? So welcome to Ask Sean, where I explore all sorts of questions about being human and invite you, the listener, to become more present to yourself, your relationships, and your life. I'm Sean Slevin, a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. If you have a question for me, I would love for you to send that in. You can do that anonymously at asksean.org. So in this video, Ken Scheel at KEVA Planks is interviewing me about his product and kind of various aspects of how we learn and grow. And this concept of ownership came up again and again. If you're not familiar with KEVA Planks, they are a very high quality wooden building block system. Their main distinguishing feature is that they have just one block. But their engineering tolerances are so tight that these blocks are reliably interchangeable. And what that means is that with one block, only one kind, one size block, you can build massive structures safely. Again, these are not structures to live in, but in terms of for play and, physics experiments and whatnot, and architectural, play and whatnot. Adults and children can make these massive structures without any kind of adhesive or joiners or anything like that, right? It's just stacking in elaborate ways. And so Ken and I are exploring what are the ways in which this constraint, right, of this limitation of just a single block, what does that mean for human development? How does that play out in interesting ways? And this theme of ownership came up again and again. That there's something about the hard work involved in actually building something yourself, right, as opposed to having so much of it done for you. That gives you an experience that gives you muscle building, cognitively, developmentally, emotionally, that is yours, that nobody can take from you.
I'm here with Sean Slevin, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist and a licensed professional counselor. He's been doing that in Harrisonburg, Virginia since 2008. And it's a delight for me to be able to talk with you in the world of toys and toy inventing. I don't talk to counselors very often. So it's a fun connection. And I was thinking about it before we talked, how similar we are, where it might seem strange, but we're both in the people business,
right?
And we're all about relationships and helping humans flourish. And for you, that seems like the definition of what a counselor does. But for me, inventing toys and being in toys, that's really what I'm trying to do, is create toys and activities that will bring people together and help people grow, and the joy of creativity and some things, and the interaction between people. So at the core of what I'm doing, that's what I'm trying to do. You just do it by talking to people and really burrowing deep, and I do it by providing activities. But
which is awesome,
that's where I
because
see
we need both, right?
Yes, we sure do. We sure do. I know somebody says everybody needs counseling, and we all we either get it from someone like you, or maybe from our spouse or something, but we all need people speaking into our lives.
We all need help. We all need people alongside us at various points. It doesn't have to be formal counseling or whatever, or a formal role, but we all need people accompanying us.
Yes. So as we were preparing for this, one of the things we wanted to talk about, you had mentioned our culture being overwhelmed by choices. And that was such an intriguing idea to me, because normally it seems like we all want choices. We all want to be able to decide what we want to do, get whatever we want on our hamburger, all those different kinds of things.
Right.
It seems like choices is always good. And what you're implying is that maybe that is not always the case. So that's that's sort of where I wanted to start out and get some of your background for why you even mention that as an issue or something to talk about and think about right now.
Right. Yeah. So, it's interesting. I'm somebody who I really like choices in a lot of ways. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I was just getting a drink from my water bottle, and like I spent time thinking about like what color do I want, what size do I want, all those kinds of things. Like there is something lovely about getting to really dial in and get something just right,
Mm-hmm.
So that's not inherently bad. The conversation our culture isn't very good about having is that everything has a cost, right? And so there is a kind of burden to having lots of choices. There's a gift to having lots of choices. There's a lot of I'm grateful for all the ways I can get just right things, and at the same time, like I was at the grocery store getting mustard a couple weeks ago, and there's like 20 different mustards at least, and so I spent 5 or 10 minutes trying to decide which several mustards, and I got a couple, am I going to buy, right? And so there is a cost there, right? There's a time and energy, there's a mental energy, and so I think choice isn't inherently bad, but we want to be mindful of when is it useful and when is it not, right? There are times where actually it's really nice to just have maybe just one or two choices, or maybe in some cases no choices, where you're just working with one variable, and then you're making choices within the context of that one variable. I mean, part of what made me think about this, of course, is just the really cool dynamic with KEVA planks, and that you have this one plank that is engineered to be super consistent, and then it's like, how many billion things can we make with that one variable, right? And so there's something about, kind of what was anticipation of this interview, I was thinking about how there really is a gift in constraints, right? There's a gift and burden in choice, and there's a gift and a burden in constraints. Obviously, the part of the burden of constraints is you don't get to do all the things, right? Right? Like there are limits. But part of the gift of that is there are limits. I'm not spending energy thinking about, like in the KEVA plank example, like, well, which piece should I get, right? Like you play with a different toy for that, and that's fun too. But like where it's just like, no, this is the piece. How am I using all the repetitions of this exact piece, right?
Yeah.
In endless permutations, and so it frees up energy to think creatively and to work in a way that is much harder if I'm also having to juggle mentally the energy of like, I have 30,000 different kinds of pieces, that are each unique, right? Now that makes certain other things possible, and that's cool, but there is a burden there. There is a cost there, and we don't really talk about that in our culture. We don't acknowledge how people are overwhelmed because they're inundated with information more than they can process, right? They're inundated with choices that they haven't built the emotional muscles to actually be able to navigate well.
Yeah, and it's kind of snuck up on us because with the internet and AI and just everything else, we do have so much more freedom. Like years ago, when you didn't have a choice, you only had so many choices of what you're going to watch on TV, and now
3
you
channels.
you have all your different channels, all the different streaming, and sometimes you just sit there and you go, oh, there's so many different things, I don't know what to watch because of all of that, and just an avalanche of those things where we're just coming to grips with the total overload, and it's fun hearing you describe KEVA planks and the simplicity. We use a Da Vinci quote that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And we try to explain that as to why KEVA planks are fun, but it's so novel compared to like Legos or anything else where it's all about having extra pieces. And just a side note on KEVA planks, we tried, some people were saying, I wish I had a KEVA plank that would do this. And we actually did a small set like that, and it's discontinued now because suddenly you had a few little arches, and before you know it, you're searching through all these pizzas, and there's two arches somewhere in here, and we got to find them, and suddenly you're frustrated instead of just figuring out how can I imagine an arch, or how can I get by without it? So
Right,
we're
right.
constantly fighting that thing of, if we had just a little more choice, we could do something.
Right,
But we've found that for KEVA planks to keep the magic, we have to keep it one piece and go from there. So you tie in the life concepts into it. It's the same concept with a little piece of wood.
Right, right, exactly. And I love that you did the experiment, and that you sort of yielded to sort of the results of like, this doesn't feel like this actually enriched things. Like the idea of it sound like, oh, cool, yeah, if we could have an arch. But then it's like then all that energy that's lost in trying to, again, find the right piece, as opposed to if we just yield to that, this is the piece. We have a bazillion of this single piece. Then it's like, okay, so how do I create an arch with this? What are the different variations of arches I can do, right? Like and might I even discover a form of arch I haven't experimented with before, through yielding to that constraint, right? And like there's a kind of freedom there.
And the cost and the benefit of that there was a cost that we didn't think about necessarily, of searching for that versus the benefit.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
You had mentioned that our culture flits from like candy to candy, and that was an interesting concept. Could you describe what you're talking about with that?
Yeah. I know that just kind of came to me when I was kind of putting together some thoughts of like, what we might talk about. Yeah, I mean we've kind of lost a appreciation of working hard. We see hard work in a lot of ways as an enemy to be overcome. And again, similar to what we've been talking about, without any consideration for what might be lost in the process. Now, also in line with what we've already said, like I'm grateful that when I need to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, that I don't have to like go outside into the elements, to a little outhouse that, may have a raccoon in it, or a snake or whatever, like I'm grateful to not have that kind of hard, right? So it's like I'm not saying everything has to be hard just to be hard. But there is a tendency in us as humans to sort of always sort of go to the easiest thing, to the sweetest thing, in terms of the candy analogy. And so, I mean, lots of folks are talking about this, right? In terms of how our loss of being able to sustain attention.
Yeah.
Right. Our loss about being able to like, just sit down and read a book for a huge 20 minutes, right? Like that feels like an eternity. That's like, 20, Instagram reels or something, right? Yeah. Like, and I'm just going to sit with this one thing the whole time. Like, I don't know, that's so hard. Right. Like so there is that, it feels good, just sort of the constant newness, the easy eating, like again, it feels a bit like candy, right? Where we're just, we're not actually sitting with and dwelling with something, right? I mean, I think about, with my line of work, I think one of the things that's meaningful and challenging for folks is that, for 50 minutes, they get my sustained attention, right? And I'm really here with them and they feel it. And that's both really healing, but also it can be uncomfortable because it's like, oh, somebody actually really sees me, right? Somebody's actually with me, right? Yes. And paying attention and noticing things and inviting myself to notice things, and right. And so, we feel really ambivalent about actual presence, even though we long for it and it's what we're made for. And so, yes, I've known about y'all and KEVA Planks for a long time, and I've always thought it's such a, just such a wonderful product, a wonderful a wonderful toy, but I mean, toys sometimes can feel pejorative, but I mean it in the richest sense, like, because how it really does invite a dwelling. It invites a, like, you got to be with it. You got to spend some time, right? You know, you got to spend some time with the planks, you know, whether in solo play or with other people. And it's not candy. But I think it's much more nourishing, right? Like, if you know, the reward is much greater. I mean, this is a principle in life, right? It's like, you know, that the persisting through hard work is where deeper fruits come, right? Like, candy is really sweet, you know, and I like a little bit of candy now and then, but nothing but candy doesn't give you enough nutrients, right? Like, to really get nutrients, like, you need food that you actually you've got to like chew, and you need to digest it. And, you know, like, there is more work involved, right? More work in the prep and in the taking it in, and the, you know, and what your body needs to do to, like, you know, get nourishment from it. And so I think it's a general life principle that, like, I mean, the old saying, you know, easy come, easy go, right? Like, I mean, you know, I'm not saying anything terribly new or insightful in a lot of ways, though it can feel like a new thing in our present age.
Well, it's interesting because when you talk about work can be drudgery, but there's also just humans are made to work, and we enjoy that. Hopefully, we find work that we like doing, and so work can take effort and still be enjoyable. And when you were talking about flitting, I was thinking about KEVA planks in museums, and one of the things that that museums would tell us after they got it in place was that they would have sometimes $100,000 dinosaur exhibit where you push a button, the dinosaur would roar, and people go through, they push the button, and they're in that room. It was the banner room that made them come to the museum, because they get to see these giant dinosaurs, and they spend 5 minutes in there. And then they get to the KEVA room, which they didn't even know was going to be there. And suddenly they stay there for an hour or two, and they've never seen anybody stay in one room that long in a science center. And it would happen with KEVA planks because it was compelling. And but it is taking, as you were describing, work. It's not candy, it's nourishing. They're working, they're having to think of all the different things that they're going to do with this block. But this work is good for them, and the slowing down is good for them.
There's something inherently respectful in this, right? Like, I think about when I'm watching a film or reading a story that respects the audience, and so has a way of inviting them in, but not just handing them candy, you know? It's like, I was watching the movie Children of Men, which is an old movie at this point. I've known about it forever, and I just finally got around to watching it here recently. And there are so many subtleties in that film that are never explained, because the director respects the audience enough to let them just sort of enter into the world and sort of kind of get a feel for it, right? Like, this is, I think, one of the errors that we've made in modernity is we can, I mean, so we celebrate sort of making everything easy, and we celebrate, like, sort of like drilling it down to, like, little bits of information, right? You know, so, like, a worse version of that film would have been, like, every step along the way of, like, there's some explaining of, like, and this is why da 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 da, and this is why da 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 da, and this is why blah blah blah. And I mean, and that, in one sense, in terms of the values of our time, would be like that. You know, that's taking it to its, like, logical extension, but it would be a terrible movie. It would be, you know, just kind of idiotic, right? Like, whereas there's something really good and honoring about, like, I have to wrestle with a little bit of, like, why is that stuff burning in the background? I don't know what's that about, like, you know, and or what's happening with this, or, like, oh, you know, like, what happened to that character, right? Like, and, you know, there's a line between doing this well versus sloppy writing that's just full of plot holes, right? So just to acknowledge that. But you know, that movie is a real masterpiece of just, like, you enter in and you get to kind of be carried along, and you're kind of having to work a bit, but in a way where then it's like the movie stays with you, the story stays with you, and you're like, holy moly, right? Like this. Yeah.
Let me translate that into play and toy.
Yes.
Because what you're saying is a perfect translation. And I tell this when I do trainings with teachers for how to make learning more interactive with KEVA planks in general. And there's things I tell them where there's a trick there's a technique that can get you very efficiently to creating a wide bridge with KEVA planks or whatever. But I tell them, if you have KEVA planks in your classroom, don't tell them that. Give them the planks and maybe give them the challenge to see if you can create a bridge this wide, but let them struggle with it and figure it out. And because every step of the way, then they own it, and they're going through the invention process in their mind, because even though I already know the easy way to make this bridge, they're figuring it out step by step and having failures and having to try it again and all these different things. And so you kind of steal that opportunity for them if you tell them the easy way to do it. And it's so tempting to do that. And there are just a handful of things where we say this tip is going to be helpful. If you do this, everything is going to be better. So, and if they don't have a lot of time, sometimes you have to give them some of the tips. But if you got KEVA planks in your home or in a classroom, so you have repeated access to them, letting people learn and struggle for that. They own it. They're proud of what they've done. And you mentioned it there of the movie staying. You remember the movie, and with teachers, we are often we're building leaves and trees and things like that when they're doing a unit on botany and outdoors, and we want the lessons to stick. And if they've worked it through their mind and had it to work all of this, then it sticks because they've made it their own. Versus if it was too easy, if they're just looking at a piece of paper that somebody handed to them and said, this is a leaf and this is then it kind of goes in and goes out. But the working for it, having to watch your movie patiently and try to figure out what's going on. There's the parallels with that movie and building with KEVA planks. So that's that's a strange connection. I never would have
No, I love it. Well, it makes me think about how like the word ownership, like we have kind of we're kind of impoverished maybe with what that has come to mean. We tend to think of ownership only in terms of like, oh, I purchased this thing and now it's mine, right? And we've lost sort of a deeper meaning of ownership of I wrestled, I labored, I persevered, I studied, and now a thing is mine, right? Like that is a whole different level of ownership. So we are a culture that is obsessed with loss and the fear of loss, right? And so we think of ownership in this reduced materialistic way of like, where's my thing and how do I protect my things, you know? And instead what we really need, and I'm not saying that things don't matter, like, you know, yeah, sure, you know, lock your doors, have homeowners insurance, that's, you know, renters insurance, whatever, you know, like that's fine. But to live in fear of the loss of those things, I think it's amplified because we don't attend to cultivating an ownership of character, an ownership of emotional and mental muscles, right? So I mean, thinking of, you know, an analogy to what you're saying within the classroom, like in counseling, it's very much this dance of there's moments where I'm providing more direct help, and there's moments where I'm hanging back, right? Because there's this optimal zone in learning, whether, you know, learning like in the classroom or learning in the counseling room, where you have adequate support, but not too much support, right? So you have enough support that you can take the risk to do the hard thing, but not so much support that it actually gets in the way of doing the hard thing, right? Like there's very much a sense, like I have to be able to be comfortable with my client's discomfort, right? I'm not trying, it's not, the goal isn't to harm them, of course, but I have to let them struggle. I have to let them flounder in places. I have to let them be, even misunderstand me in moments, right? And let these like mini ruptures happen as part of their wrestling through something, some sort of template from their background, from their wounding that that isn't serving them well, right? But when I allow for that, and again, providing support skillfully at just the right moments, right? You know, like in the classroom, kind of using that intuition, that instinct of like, okay, I am going to give a little bit of a tip here, but I'm not going to give these other 20 tips, right? You know, like, and so kind of doing that dance. Then as clients wrestle through to places of transformation, it's like, it's theirs, right? Like they did the work. Like, did I play a big part in that? Well, absolutely, right? Like it was definitely integral, but it would not have happened without them. Like they are the piece of the equation that I cannot do, right? You know, all of my therapist powers or whatever, you know, cannot do that for them. You know, only they can do that. Like that is what they bring to the counseling experience. That's what, you know, what anybody who's working with KEVA Planks, they bring to that, right? Like you could have all the tips in the world, but if the child or the adult working with KEVA Planks, if they don't bring their energy, their curiosity, their courage, right, to experiment, to try and fail and try again, you know, like their perseverance, if they don't bring that, then nothing's going to happen, right? You know, like, but when they persist in that, then it really is theirs. And that's the amazing thing, is that even if, you know, something terrible happened and they lost all their KEVA Planks, right? They still have that ability, that characterological, those muscles, mental, emotional muscles in them. Like that's theirs forever. Nobody can steal that from us, right? You know, like, and that's the same thing with counseling, right? Like I'm trying to help install that in folks such that it's like they take that gives gifts to them for the rest of their life, you know, like, so yeah, it just, I think this deeper kind of ownership it's so life-giving and so needed in our culture, right? Like folks are so adrift, and again, so worried about like, what's going to happen to all my stuff? Like, and yeah, I mean, I care about my stuff, but like, ultimately it's the person that lives the life that matters, right? Like that kind of deeper ownership is what brings joy, what brings meaning, not, you know, whether I have this thing or that thing.
One of the subtexts that we use sometimes with advertising is we say KEVA Planks build a mind, as a play on, you're building a structure, but you're also building a person, you're building a mind with that at the same time. Another thing I thought of, Ben Franklin talked about trying to persuade people, and you need to talk to them and ask questions so that they think the thing that you wanted them to do was their idea. And so if it comes from that way, then they'll like the idea, and then it will become their own. And then I was also thinking, it's amazing the things that you're saying. I guess I'm obsessed with KEVA Planks, but I'm the connection
as you should be,
because like when I'm building with a young person or with one of my grandchildren, let's say we're building a tower together or something like that. I know so many different ways to build a KEVA tower that I could take the lead and kind of say, let's do this. And I have to slow down and force myself, and I can grab planks faster than a 4-year-old. And so I have to slow down and sometimes grab the blocks and say, here's one, where do you want to put this one? And try to encourage them to take the lead, and they're making the decisions. And then maybe if we get that pattern going, then I'll say, okay, you take the lead, and then I'm going to build according to whatever you do. If you go flat, I'm going flat. You go on edge, I'm going on edge. And so trying to, I mean, we sometimes call that follow the leader. And there's value with me being the leader and say, you do whatever I'm doing, and we do that for now. You lead, and I'm going to do whatever you're doing. And being okay with that. And we have to slow down, especially if we're the adult with a child, to give them the time, because we've experienced so much more of life we're more adept, all these different things.
Yeah,
We can maybe do it better than them,
yeah.
but to not do it and slow down so they have the time. And then that's where they get ownership. That's where they're not proud of a tower that I built. They're proud of a tower that they built. So, so
it's again, resisting the candy, right? You know, the candy there is, oh, we got to get the tower built. You know, okay, all right, now the tower's built. It's like, well, is that really what we're doing this for? Right. Is it really about the tower, or is it about the experience? Is it about the learning, the muscle building, the relational connection, right? In which case, it kind of doesn't matter whether we build the tower or not. You know, the tower can fall down 1,000 times. If we're in connection, if we're in relationship, if there's learning happening, if there's growing happening, then that's a win, right? Like, so it's like, but that's like a more meaty meal, right? That requires sitting with discomfort. That requires patience and just like not being in a hurry, you know, not being destination driven.
Yes, and that goes back to what you were talking about with ownership, where ownership is, I own this tower. That's what I created. And versus if what you're really interested in, and what I think what we're saying is the value is the experience of building it, the memory of doing that with your sibling or your best friend, all of those different things are what the real value is. And maybe you take a picture of it and you remember that tower you built, but the real value for growing as a human being and flourishing is that relational stuff that was happening as you were doing it.
Right. Exactly. And those in a lot of ways, I think, are the building blocks of, if someone does eventually build some amazing structure, right? It's going to come through like a bit of time, right? It's going to come through a lot of experiences where like, not a whole lot, you know, happened, you know, in like sort of this reductionistic way. But this is a life principle, right? Like you know, so much of life is like, we're just kind of, you know, trucking along, we're trying to grow and whatnot. And then we have these moments where like, oh, I'm somehow stronger and capable in ways that I didn't like my clients constantly remark on this. Like, I'm tracking all these minute ways that I see them growing, and I you know, invite them in to try to see that. But they will have moments, and this has been my experience of myself in my own journey, my own growth journey, you know, having these moments of like, oh, I really feel the contrast now, right? Like, but it's because it's standing on like all of those building blocks, if you will, all of those prior moments where it didn't seem like anything exciting or dramatic was happening. It was just, you know, it was just another day playing with the KEVA blocks with a friend, right? You know, or something, or with the parent. But then at some point it's like, oh, and then actually we built this amazing tower, and then it has a different meaning, right? Like it's not about the, like, in one sense, it's not about the tower itself. The tower symbolizes that point, all of the persistence and the perseverance and the muscle building that's gone into the tower, right? Like it's this symbolic representation, and it's cool in of itself of like, this is amazing that we could build a structure like this just with wooden blocks, you know, no fasteners, no glue, no, you know, right? And so there is an awe and whatnot to that. But I think also it just, it's because it's not candy, you know, because it really does require all of this persistence. Like it just symbolically carries a kind of meaning that persists after the tower comes down. There's a sense in which the tower still exists, right? It exists in the mind, in the heart of the individuals who persisted, because that capacity is theirs forever, right? It's like, so that's, I mean, in a sense, you're building towers in their mind. You know, you're giving them the ability to build structures, you know, within themselves that they own forever. You know, like it's like that, and nobody can steal that from us. Like that's true ownership.
And then when you were talking about sort of a life lesson or life concept, I mean that's a concrete mini example of all of those excuse me, little moments in life as kids are growing up into adults, the relationship of parents with their children, all of those different things are all of these inconsequential moments during the day. And as you can see tiny improvements with your clients that you're talking about, all of these things are happening with the ability, the confidence that children have as they're doing that. And and with KEVA Planks, even the things like having a tower fall or fail or something like that, and having the persistence to rebuild it and keep going.
Having to go through the disappointment, or maybe there's some shame because they feel like they failed, or whatever that brings up, right?
Yes, but it's with a KEVA tower, it doesn't really matter. It's only going to take you 2 minutes maybe to rebuild it or whatever. It's really tiny consequences that are not scary with the KEVA planks, but eventually you're going to be applying for a job and get rejected, and then have to apply for another one.
You're going to try to go on a date and get rejected.
Yes. One of the scariest things there is. So yes, that's so funny. I was thinking as we're talking about experiences and just how easy it is for us to get on the right track and and then divert onto the wrong track. And so I was, when we started talking about experiences, and I'm thinking about a lot of people now are saying, for my birthday, I don't want something, I want an experience. I want to do something. And people saying, we don't need more stuff, we want to travel and all of these things. And then I've been guilty of this. You get to the place and you sort of are going for the Instagram photo. I was just in Arizona, and there was this perfect rock. And if you get there in the evening, there's a perfect body of water that reflects the rock. And so we went there, and then there's like 40 other people there trying to get that exact picture. And so
it's like you were not the first person to have this idea.
Yes. So most of us are there trying to get that stupid picture instead of gazing at the beautiful rocks and saying, what a moment this is. But we want to capture that product, and the water, it was windy, so you weren't getting the perfect reflection that you're supposed to get. But there were people that had been there for like an hour beforehand, claiming their spot by the puddle so that they would have their camera all set up, and the moment the sun comes over, then they get it. And it's just interesting to me how quickly we can take this beautiful rock place out in Arizona and convert it into an experience that so we can prove we were there and that we saw a prettier rock than you did. So
and it's such an interesting, it's interesting to reflect on like the difference between that versus like true, I guess I want to say true art, right? Because there's a photographer who's doing this from an artistic place, like they might be setting up and waiting for hours or all day for that right shot. But we intuitively sense that there's something different about that versus the Instagram thing, And I'm not trying to say that Instagram photos can't be artful. Like I'd like to think that the things that I post on my personal Instagram have an artful quality to them. I mean, that's why I want to post them, is like it's less about, I'm just thinking out loud here, but I mean, it's less about proving that I was there and more about like, I want to share this with y'all. There's something about this angle, this light, this bit of graffiti or something, the way these rocks are in the snow. I mean, it's just sort of catching the random, beauty in life. And so there, it's not even about, I guess that's another thing too. It's less about getting it perfect. It's about, I'm trying to tell the truth about what is, right? And so maybe, I don't know, I'm just playing with ideas here. Maybe the more truthful Instagram photo would be like, here I am with 30 other people trying to get this shot. Say hello to all the strangers that I don't know. And, isn't this a hoot? Maybe that would be the more honest version of that, instead of trying to contrive this like, oh, here I am on this desolate, beautiful spot, and the sun just happens to be blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like, nope, it's a freaking crowd. And like, we're we're all doing the same thing. But can we then maybe be comical about that, perhaps?
But you were putting a sort of a counterbalance to what I was saying, where it's kind of absurd, some of the things that were happening. But it also, by seeing the beautiful photos, that's that's how I knew that it even existed. And so I got to experience that because somebody else had shared it. So there's so many nuances to all of these things, of where it can be useful to where it can become too much, and
where it takes us out of the moment.
Right. Too many choices versus not enough choices. And everything has a cost, as you said at the beginning. So
and I know I've got to wind down here in a moment, but playing with that idea to tie in like the choices thing, like, I think that's, I mean, it's just occurred to me as you're saying that like instead of like, so how would I put it? Like, instead of like insisting on getting the perfect Instagram shot, I'm going to yield to what's the moment, right? Mm-hmm. You know, like, well, the moment is the water's ripply, and that's how it is, you know, like, mm-hmm. Right. And instead of like insisting on I have to have infinite choices and it has to be perfect, it's like, no, let me just let me be present. I think presence is a great barometer, right? Am mm-hmm. I actually being present to this, or am I taking myself out of it out of an insistence that it be something it's not, right? That's where it becomes a falsehood, you know?
Right.
Whereas like, I don't begrudge someone wanting to get wanting to get a beautiful photo, right? And to share that on Instagram, like you said, like that can be a gift to us, you know? Like, mm-hmm. I didn't know that was there. I want to go be in that too. But then go and be in it, right? Actually be present, actually experience it, right? That's the invitation. Not get caught up in just like an endless, like, you know, copies of copies, you know, right? Like, mm-hmm. let me go and have my own experience and like, and just be with whatever that is, you know, in all of its beautiful imperfection. And just accept that limitation, right?
I once heard somebody say that they were, I think, Disney World and taking all these videos, and they said, I'm going to have to go home and watch this to find out if I had fun. So
Right. Yeah. And see how many likes I get. It tells me whether I had a good time or not. You know, like.
I think you're describing it as being present. I think that mm-hmm. that is a nice kind of wrap up of. It seems like that's what we lose when we succumb to too many choices. Our brains get diverted, and we're not present with the people that we're with the moment that we have. Maybe we're alone and we're not present. But that's sort of the biggest loss, it seems, by having that bombardment. So that's really helpful.
Cool. Good.
Well, this makes me want to just bouncing these ideas off of you, and that everything you say makes me think of KEVA Planks. It's like life according to KEVA Planks. So
that's great.
It's been a fun exercise. My family will think I've lost it, that I equate everything to KEVA Planks, but
that's fun.
But so this is a free counseling session for me. I appreciate that I'm not on the bill, and I feel just a little bit healthier having spoken with you. So
good. It's been a delight, Ken. It's been a delight.
Same here. And you have a great day, and maybe we can do this again.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd be happy to anytime.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye.